Hi all, welcome back to Gabriel's Horn, and in today's video, we're gonna be doing
TMUA tier ranking.
Just a heads up that these rankings are based completely on my personal opinions. Okay, let's get straight into it. So starting with the 2016 paper, one question that really stood out is question 20 in paper 1, and I've seen a lot of people get tricked by this question. So if you're looking for hard TMUA questions to do, have a go at this one. For paper 2, I got a pretty mid score, mainly because I didn't have a strong enough understanding of these logic questions before attempting this paper. But yeah, I'd say overall the 2016 paper wasn't that bad, so let's put it in the middle. Painful but doable. For 2017, question 20 was another challenging one. It requires you to use things like the cosine rule, and the main difficulty was using the given conditions to determine the correct range for theta. As for paper 2, I found question 10 quite confusing. You could probably guess that the shape of this function will be similar to that of an odd function since the integral is equal to 0. But yeah, subbing in values or drawing graphs was probably the best method here. And question 17 is just way too many words. I personally found 2017 easier than 2016, but what did you guys think? I'll be putting this at comma. Moving on to 2018, well guess what? I somehow managed to get 20 wrong again.
Leave me alone!
But yeah, it wasn't actually a hard question, I just missed out that 0.5 in the middle. For paper 2, there was question 17. Well, they do this a lot in the TMUA where they introduce a completely new word in the question. So don't get panicked like me if you don't know what a square sum is. And question 18, I personally found this a bit confusing, so maybe have a go. I'd say 2018 was harder than 2017 and 2016, but not by a large margin, so I'll put it at painful but doable. On to 2019. For paper 1, I couldn't really find a specific question to pick up on. If there was a question that you found particularly confusing in that paper, then let me know. But paper 2 was not kinda at all. There is a question on necessity and sufficiency, another question on necessity concerning a function p and its derivatives, which I found quite difficult, and question 17. Well, this was such a confusing question that I've made a full video explaining my solutions, so do check it out if you're stuck. Overall, that paper 2 single-handedly made me dislike this 2019 paper, so I think it's only fitting that it goes straight into the I don't like it tier. Again, there's nothing particular I want to highlight from paper 1 in 2020. I'd say question 16 on paper 2 was quite difficult, and like before, they introduce a new idea within this question, so the key is to slow down, read carefully, and fully understand the definition before trying to attempt it. Honestly, nothing too surprising in this paper, so I'm going to put it at painful but doable. We have 3 papers left, and these 3 papers are quite difficult. For question 14, when you first see the question, your instinct might be to sketch a graph, which is a good starting point. But when dealing with questions about the number of intersections between 2 graphs, you need to remember that there could be a chance that they are just touching, which would change the number of intersections. So make sure you always check for that. Question 17, instead of relying on your instincts on what the graph might look like, make sure you actually test a few values of x or y and see how the graph behaves. It actually isn't that hard of a question if you spend some time on it, so don't rush it. For paper 2, again, it's really important to have a strong understanding of these logic definitions. You don't want to be stuck trying to recall the definitions every single time, especially given the time constraints. A very tough paper overall, and I think it fits in the I don't like it tier. 2022, again, there were a lot of challenging questions. So I'll quickly show you the ones that I want to highlight. This question from paper 1 is hard because the number of intersections depends on the different cases of A, so you can't treat it as one fixed graph. This question from paper 2, I think, was one of the trickier proof questions. The mistake here isn't obvious, so I recommend you give it a try yourself. Question 18, a tough graph question, and you might find it difficult to visualize what's going on. As you can see, this was a very challenging paper, so I think it's the first one to go into the absolutely disgusting tier. Alright, now we're on to the final paper, at least the ones Pearson has released. The challenge in this question is ensuring you find all the solutions in the given range. This applies to most trick questions in the TMUA. Whether you use the unit circle or a more systematic approach, just do whatever works best for you. The key in question 5 is asking yourself, do you need R to be true for S? Does R being true guarantee S? Or is it both? This is a challenging question, and if you haven't done it yet, I don't want to spoil it for you, so give it a try. Again, 2023 was a very challenging paper, so I think it deserves to be placed in the highest tier. Absolutely disgusting. Alright, so that's all the papers done. You can probably see the overall trend where these papers seem to be getting slightly harder each year, which is probably because of the applicant pool, which is getting stronger and more competitive each year. I also want to talk about the 2 papers that I've sat that haven't been released. If I were to put them on this ranking, I'll probably put them around here. Personally, I felt the one I sat in 2026 to be slightly easier than the one I did in 2024. But with that said, it's important to keep in mind that in the new Pearson format, not everyone gets the exact same paper. From what I understand, they use different statistical methods to kind of standardize the results using data from students who sat similar questions, so your result isn't purely based on a raw score, which helps them avoid the situation where someone is disadvantaged by getting a harder paper. I've also seen people saying that ever since Pearson moved to this online format, the papers have gotten significantly harder. But personally, I think the difficulty is pretty consistent, and these past papers are still the best source of practice. I went from a score from 7.3 to an 8.9 in 1 year, basically just using these past papers. If you want a breakdown of the exam techniques that I've used and also everything else that has helped me improve in the TMUA, let me know in the comments down below. That is all for today. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like or subscribing. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments down below. I'm happy to answer any comments. Bye bye!